Back in middle school, I discovered Flash animations for the first time. Specifically, I was drawn to sprite animations done in the Kirby art style, and the two biggest channels at the time were Destruction Series and Lone Alchemist. I was absolutely enthralled by the epic fight scenes that they and other channels like them would create, and their work sparked my love for animation. At one point, a few of the channels came together to create a website called soulruin.com as a place for fans of Kirby and Kirby-themed animations to hang out. Unfortunately, the site didn't stay up for very long and closed down in late 2017. However, there were two series that they promoted while the site was still up, one of which was Spirits XL.
Chance, let's begin. Tell somebody with this. Like this. One wish, make you sound with beats. Shake and dance in. Uverworld. Stop, just give. Last selection of beats. Attack. Everybody look down, it's your time.
Spirits XL is a series animated in Flash that started out on DeviantArt. It had the first part of Episode 1 released on January 12, 2013, and is written and animated by Walton Chima Aganom, also known by his username, Sky the Star Hero. On January 11, 2016, he would start to upload the old episodes onto YouTube in order to help spread the series around more. And since Part 2 of Episode 3, he's been uploading the episodes exclusively to YouTube. Now that we have the basic information out of the way, let's get into some of the different aspects about the show. The story is focused around an orphan boy named Combo, who dreams of being a star hero just like the famous Sky who helped save Popstar 12 years ago. Combo is given an opportunity to leave the orphanage for Caramel City to fulfill his dream along with his friend Sundyne, who left a few years back. However, before he leaves, an event transpires that will change his fate forever. And that's all I can really say without spoiling the plot of the show, so instead I'll now focus more on the writing of the show itself. The dialogue is really well written, focusing a lot on developing characters and their relationships with one another, as well as expanding the lore and fundamental aspects of this world. This is actually rather surprising when compared to other series or animations like it, as most of them primarily focus on the fights in their episodes instead of developing characters, usually because they're fanfictions using pre-existing characters and storylines that they assume you already know. Spirits XL, on the other hand, has a cast made up of original characters that have no relation to the plotlines from Kirby. This may sound confusing, as I stated earlier that the story takes place on Popstar, Kirby's home planet. But by looking at the synopsis for the show from the first episode, we learn that these characters do not exist in this universe, meaning the story of Spirits XL is original and is completely unaffected by Kirby characters and storylines. Now, the fact that Walton even made this distinction in the first place is rather odd, since he could have made this show take place on a completely different planet. But I think I understand why he did it. Because the show is animated in the Kirby art style and has several species from that universe here, most of them recolored or redesigned to make them unique, I think he felt a need to give an explanation for these similarities by simply saying that this Popstar is a duplicate from the original with similar species, but different people. It may seem like an odd reason, but it's the only one that makes sense to me. Another aspect I liked about the writing was the comedy. I was surprised by how humorous the show can be at times, especially with its visual humor. The comedy isn't really a main focus of the show, so jokes aren't made all that often, but when they are, they usually land well. Now, of course, the writing as a whole isn't perfect. At the start, there are a few moments where it may feel like the characters are over-explaining things, but this happens rarely, and the writing improves with each subsequent video that is released, something you'll be hearing a lot in this review. Overall, the writing, while a tad clunky in a few places, smooths out and becomes more natural over time, engaging you in the story, characters, and the world that they inhabit. The series, as previously stated, is primarily animated in Flash using pixelated sprites for characters and the backgrounds, the latter of which is mostly made up of pre-made resources from places like Spriter's Resource, and are either added in as is or receive some modifications where needed. This allows Walton to create really detailed settings in a much more efficient manner, and allows him to focus more on the writing and choreography of the show. The character sprites are mostly based off of the designs from Kirby, and as I mentioned before, most of them are recolored and redesigned to make them more distinct and unique. Of course, there are some that don't match the style, but those are few and far between. There are also times where characters are either partially or entirely drawn using Photoshop. This allows Walton to make the characters more expressive during certain scenes that would be much more difficult or even impossible to convey using the limited expressiveness of the pixelated character sprites. He also uses this art style for the character dialogue boxes. While parts 1 and 2 of episode 1 use a standard colored name to indicate which character is speaking, part 3 and onward use both colored text boxes as well as the drawn character sprites to provide expressiveness to as many scenes as possible. With this change also came the removal of the top and bottom black borders, present in the first 2 parts, allowing for the animation to take up more of the screen, which is increased even further for episode 4 and onward with the removal of the side borders as well. While I did say that the show focuses more on character and story, that doesn't mean it doesn't have good fight choreography. The fights are a bit sparse at first, but more fights gradually take place as the series progresses towards the end of the first major arc of the series. And just like the writing, the animation and fight choreography improves with future episodes, and the show even starts utilizing more dynamic cinematography. Despite being animated with 2D sprites, the way Walton manipulates the camera creates a sense of depth that I didn't think was possible in this art style, and the fights start to utilize the 4 made-in backgrounds more frequently to add extra layers of depth to the choreography as well. Now, if you compare the fights in this show to other channels that focus almost entirely on action, you may find some that are technically and visually more impressive, especially when compared to the earlier fights. But it makes up for it by adding another layer of depth to them, only this one isn't physical like the previous one. Because the show primarily focuses on the characters and story, viewers are able to form an attachment and relationship to them that makes the fights more engaging and tense, because we actually care about the people who are fighting and understand their motivations. To put this into perspective, the fight from episode 1.5 does in fact involve a character we've never met before, Andy, but the fight itself takes up at most 2 minutes of the total 31 minute and 58 second runtime, while the rest of it is spent on expanding some of the old characters, Andy, and even his relationship with those characters. Even though the fight itself isn't all that impressive when compared to other animations out there, because Walton took the time to develop this character, we actually care more about how the fight will end, making it more memorable than a fight animation that's created for sheer spectacle. And because his fight choreography continued to improve as our connections with the characters continue to grow, future fights become more engaging on both a technical and emotional level. Now, the last thing I want to bring up in this section is the visual quality of the show. The original animations weren't created with YouTube in mind, and because of that, their size on DeviantArt is really small. You can install an SWF player, download the original files, and play them on your computer in full screen, but doing so shows what's beyond the intended viewing border. As a result, you'll end up seeing the edge of backgrounds, characters idling, and other visual anomalies because you weren't meant to see them. You get the added bonus of controlling the flow of dialogue, but the other negatives might be too distracting for some viewers. Now, the YouTube versions of these episodes all the way up to episode 3 part 2 are in full screen and have black borders added onto the sides to hide these things, but the quality of the footage is only in 360p. The dialogue also scrolls for you as Walton recorded himself viewing the animation, and while I didn't have many issues keeping up, it can be an issue for people who struggle to read at a standard speaking pace. Episode 4 onward avoids these issues by uploading in 720 and sometimes even 1080p, but because they aren't uploaded to DeviantArt anymore, you won't be able to control the flow of dialogue, so hopefully you could already keep up with Walton's text scrolling speed. While I personally was able to enjoy episodes 1 through 3 in 360p because of the compelling story and characters, as well as the promise that the quality improves in future episodes, I still wish that I could view this show from start to finish in a higher quality. So, knowing that I would eventually want to re-watch the show again in the future, I took the time to record the SWF files in full screen using OBS, and then edited the borders in and the opening when needed to create the highest quality version of the show as possible. Unfortunately, because episode 3 part 2 was never uploaded to DeviantArt, I ultimately have to watch that episode in the original quality. Walton did upload an HD version of the fight from that episode that I was able to edit in, but that's only a small improvement. Of course, this isn't really a valid solution for first-time viewers who aren't sure if they'll even like the series, so I had the idea of getting my footage to Walton so that he could upload them to his channel for both old fans to enjoy and new fans to have an easier time getting into the series. However, as of me recording this, I have yet to hear back from him, so I don't know if he would be on board for it, so I hope that he sees this video so I can get a response from him. But even if I'm not able to share my HD edits with you, the show is still really good even in 360p, so it shouldn't be too much of a deterrent for newcomers. Alright, now let's move on to the last technical aspects of the show, music and sound design. The show uses several music tracks and audio files from anime and games to make up the soundtrack and sound effects of the series. The show has even had 2 anime-styled openings and an ending to really sell the feel of the type of show that you're watching. Of course, even though the show is making use of professionally composed music, it wouldn't matter if they weren't implemented properly. Fortunately, they are the vast majority of the time. Walton manages to find some of the best music for enhancing the emotions of the scenes, with calm music for general conversation, somber or tense music for serious scenes, and fast and energetic music used for fight sequences. And because music is taken from other games and anime, chances are you'll end up hearing a piece that you're familiar with, resulting in a sense of nostalgia even if you've never seen the episode before. One minor issue with some of the audio in the first episodes is that because the dialogue is controlled by the user, the music might go on long enough to where it loops, but it wasn't edited in a way to make the loops seamless. This is a minor gripe though, and because the newer episodes aren't interactable, the music is chosen, placed, and edited more carefully as the series has progressed. Audio files of energy, explosions, and jabs are also used during action scenes to add weight to the blows being dealt by the fighters, and to make them more engaging to watch. Walton also uses clips from professional voice actors during a few dialogue scenes, to help convey the type of voice he intends for the characters to have, as well as to try and convey their age to a certain extent, which is incredibly helpful considering the fact that the art style of the show makes determining the age of the characters an almost impossible task. If not for the synopsis tab and that one post made on his DeviantArt page, I wouldn't have an idea of how old any of these characters are.
Is that it? It's over.
Part of me does wonder what it would be like if the show had full voice acting, but I think it's best that it's not done at the moment. And there's no way that Walton will be able to find enough voice actors that can mimic the voices that I've come to associate these characters with, so it would be kind of jarring to hear a different voice coming from Combo, for instance, than what I heard from the voice clips that he had been using so far. One last thing that I will mention is that because of the music used being copyrighted, the first opening is muted on most of the episodes, but the original opening video itself isn't, so whenever the opening shows up, you can play it separately. In episode 5 part 2, there's also a piece of music that plays during the end credits that got muted called Asue, which is originally from Gundam Age. But if you play this video by Duo Gale at exactly 3611, the music should sync up perfectly, and then stop at around 3941. Or you can edit it back in like I did. Whatever floats your boat. This show is really special to me for a few reasons. You see, a lot of the animators that I used to watch have quit, gone on an indefinite hiatus, or just straight up stopped communicating with their audience. I mentioned that SoulRuin.com promoted 2 shows on their website. The other one is called Stella's Dreams, a story created by Masked Gamer as a continuation to the Kirby anime. This concept was very interesting to me, so I decided to watch it as well, but it was cancelled after only 3 episodes. The creator has stated that she may come back to it one day if she feels like it, but that it's not very likely. Destruction Series and Lone Alchemist have also stopped making animations because they either lost motivation or life got in the way, with the former focusing on his new gaming channel, and the latter raising a family. There are also channels like KR Animation who nearly completed their projects and promised to do so, but have since ceased uploading or even interacting with their subscribers. I could keep going, but for the sake of brevity, I'll just leave it at that. Ever since middle school, I've seen many creators making all kinds of content disappear, leaving projects unfinished and fans guessing at where they've gone and if they'll even come back. This trend has been particularly strong with animation YouTubers for me, and to see so many that I used to love disappear like this has left me quite disappointed, even though I understand why most of them have quit. And that's why Spirits Excel is so special to me. Not only is it the only show of its kind that I used to watch that is still going since I first watched it back in 2016, its writing quality and the amount of content in this series far surpasses everything else that other channels like it have ever done, and even some professionally made shows. It's made up of wholly original characters and an original story that focuses more on getting you invested in the characters and making you feel like the world of Spirits Excel is actually lived in, over bombarding you with several minutes of a bunch of Kirby OCs fighting characters from Kirby or someone else's OC. Sure, it was cool the first time, but after seeing it done dozens of times, sometimes even by the same animator, it really loses its charm. Walton Aganom has made something very unique that stands out from everything else that I've ever seen from this community. And the fact that it's still going amazes me. After all, it's completely non-profit. And even if he tries to put ads on his videos once he has enough subscribers, because of all the copyrighted audio that he uses, he would make absolutely no ad revenue at all. The only thing he's ever going to get out of this is praise and support from fans, and yet he still puts in so much time and effort into this series. This level of dedication is so admirable and respectable that I had to do something to show my love and support, because I want this series, more than any of the other shows I have watched here on YouTube, to reach its conclusion. So please, if this review has interested you in Spirits Excel even a little, I highly encourage you to go check it out. It's a very well made series that has progressively improved with each subsequent installment, and I can only imagine how good it will be when it finally ends. Thank you so much for watching. I know I've been gone for a while, and I'm going to upload an update video a few days later, like after I get back from my vacation, on why I've been gone. So just wait till then and I'll explain everything. Hopefully this video doesn't get a copyright strike like Sky's videos did, cause I used the intro he used that usually gets struck. I didn't use a whole lot of the song, so I'm hoping it slides past, cause I just don't want to deal with more of that copyright bull like I did with Pokemon, but I'll have to wait and see. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you whenever I make next. Take care.